This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, and faith-focused feature stories with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. Still hoping for a deal. President Trump insists peace talks with Iran are accelerating at a rapid pace, despite the two sides exchanging airstrikes in recent days. Retired four-star Army General Jack Keane.
The Iranians are playing a game here with us. They want to stretch this out as close to the midterms as they possibly can.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer.
I'll tell you who's in a hurry for this blunder to end. The American people who are getting crushed by record gas prices at the pump.
There are mixed messages today on Iran. The Islamic regime says negotiations are off. President Trump says they're still on. Matt Whitaker is the U.S. ambassador to NATO.
Time and leverage are on the United States side, and I don't think that there should be any hurry right now to get the best deal in the interests of the United States.
President Trump says he's anticipating a deal with Iran sometime over the next week. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is talking about the war with Iran in testimony before Congress today. Now to that other war. Russia today launched a massive and coordinated missile and drone strike against Ukraine. Here's reporter Patrick Reval.
More than 70 missiles and over 600 drones, mostly targeting Kyiv, but also badly hitting the southern city of Dnipro. Dozens of residential buildings were damaged. There were explosions on the skyline all night.
At least 18 dead, more than 100 injured. That barrage targeted 13 regions, including the capital city of Kyiv. Voters headed to the polls today in 6 states for primary elections. There are nominating contests for the U.S. House, the U.S. Senate, and governor's races as well in Iowa, Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, South Dakota, and California. Steve Hilton is one of 2 Republican candidates for governor of California.
There's a majority for change. We've had enough of the crime and the chaos and the taxes, the sanctuary city madness.
In the Democratic primary for mayor of L.A., several candidates, including reality TV star Spencer Pratt, are vying to unseat the incumbent Democrat Karen Bass.
Spencer Pratt has certainly made a name for himself in this race that's really been centered on 3 key issues: frustration over homelessness, the fire recovery, and a large decline in Hollywood production here. And the latest polls show it could be anyone's game to head to a runoff, with current mayor Karen Bass just a few points ahead of Pratt and her fellow Democrat Nithya Raman.
NBC's Liz Kreutz. Security in Los Angeles is beefed up in advance of the upcoming World Cup. Team USA will take on Paraguay June 12th. Alex Stone with ABC News.
Los Angeles County Sheriff Robert Luna says he has been assured there will be no immigration enforcement by ICE agents at FIFA World Cup events.
If that starts occurring, we're going to have a whole new host of problems.
Law enforcement here says FIFA World Cup will be one of the largest security operations in Los Angeles history.
Law enforcement in cities across the country are on the lookout for human trafficking as World Cup competition gets underway. Experts warn these large-scale sporting events are breeding grounds for traffickers. New Jersey state troopers are helping protect an immigration detention facility in Newark, New Jersey. ICE agents there have come under attack from far-left demonstrators.
There's no one breaking that facility. And if somehow they did, they're going to meet a dozen or more special response team members, and it's not going to be a good day for them.
Border Czar Tom Homan visited that facility yesterday. He says the protests began 12 days ago. Since then, at least 20 arrests have been made. The White House is backing off plans for a nearly $2 billion fund that would pay the legal bills of the president's political allies, many of whom were targeted for prosecution by the Biden administration.
Bipartisan condemnation included a closed-door clash between acting Attorney General Todd Blanche and GOP senators.
This is just stupid on stilts.
Amid concerns the fund could be used to pay January 6th rioters.
NBC's Gabe Gutierrez. Nearly 1 in 5 young adults in this country are using AI chatbots for mental health advice. That's according to new findings from the RAND Research Institute. 19% of respondents said they use the chatbots for advice. That's up 5 points from last last year. Still to come on the Noon Report for Tuesday, phone-free schools work, cell phone ban in Pennsylvania, and redistricting New York.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. Our pleasant and serene weather pattern continues. We'll have forecast details coming up in 10.
All right, Kevin, see you in about 10 minutes. Thank you. Pennsylvania police will start issuing fines this coming Friday to motorists who talk or text while driving. Paul Miller's law is named after a man who was killed 16 years ago by a distracted driver. Fines are $50 for a first-time offense. You can also be ticketed for texting or talking while stopped at a red light. Again, those fines begin this Friday. Teachers across New York say smartphone bans at school are yielding results. A survey of 600 educators statewide shows students' academic performance and personal behavior has improved as a result of the year-long bell-to-bell ban. Here's New York Governor Kathy Hochul.
80% reported that the students are behaving better in a more engaged way. They're collaborating more, they're talking to each other, and they're acting like kids again, and they're participating in class discussions, and teachers are feeling they can finally teach.
60% of teachers surveyed reported a decline in bullying and cyberbullying as a result of the smartphone ban. The Pennsylvania House has passed a bell-to-bell smartphone ban at school. Following Senate action, that measure will head to the governor's desk for his signature. Democrat Mandy Steele explains her vision for this legislation.
It will be a world where kids are talking and playing and making eye contact and focused on their works. It'll be a return to normal childhood. We know from the medical community that the white matter in children's brains is not growing normally. Again, this is a massive public health crisis.
A recent Quinnipiac poll found 70% of Pennsylvania voters support restricting digital devices at school. More than 30 states have cell phone bans right now. New York lawmakers are set to adjourn for summer this coming Thursday. Before they do, they are expected to tackle the thorny issue of redistricting. An amendment proposed by state Democrats would not impact the upcoming midterms. Any mid-decade gerrymandering effort would require passage by two consecutive, separately elected legislatures and then approval by the voters in a statewide referendum. Primary day's just 3 weeks away in New York. Family Life's Sarah Harnish has some news you can use if you're planning to vote.
Primary day is Tuesday, June 23rd, but early voting starts on the 13th and runs through the 21st. You can register to vote at your county board of elections or a number of state agencies no later than June 13th. Absentee ballots must be postmarked by the 23rd and reach the Board of Elections no later than the 30th to be counted. And it may take a while to determine a winner because of expanded absentee voting. Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
Thank you, Sarah. The Pennsylvania Family Institute sponsoring a webinar this month on digital discernment and how to raise kids in the age of AI. That free webinar is Tuesday, June 16th, beginning at 7 p.m. You can check out pafamily.org for more information. The Red Cross needs your blood bad. There's an urgent need for donations. Experts say the summer months are especially challenging.
So we're dealing with the time of year when a lot of our college and high school blood drive programs drop off for the summer.
Red Cross spokesman Billy Brill says the time between Memorial Day and Labor Day is the deadliest time of year for teenage drivers, and that's why blood donations are so critical.
We're looking at appointments in June, and that's where we're starting to get a little bit nervous. It makes for a pretty big gap that we have to fill.
Fatal crashes involving teenage drivers rise by 30% during the summer months. A single person injured in a serious car accident can require up to 100 units of blood.
We see a substantial increase in almost every traumatic mechanism as the weather starts to get warmer around this time of year.
Michael Vella's a trauma surgeon from Rochester, New York. He tells Spectrum News.
When we get into the summer, it becomes a daily occurrence where we're giving patients blood.
You can learn more about how to give the gift of life by checking out redcrossblood.org. Pennsylvania Pregnancy Wellness Centers hosted a rally Monday at the state capitol in Harrisburg. They argue community-based pregnancy support is critical to filling gaps in maternal health care. Proponents showcased nearly $9 million in mostly free services that are offered, such as ultrasounds and prenatal education at nearly 90 pregnancy resource centers across Pennsylvania. Cheektowaga, New York police investigating a triple homicide. Family Life's Dee Haley.
One adult and 2 juveniles were found dead inside a home on Ellen Drive in Cheektowaga yesterday afternoon. Cheektowaga police responded to a wellness check shortly after 3 p.m. and made the discovery. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
Thank you, Dee. A gap in Pennsylvania law has put fire companies and county treasurers at odds over online raffles. Those counties are warning that online raffles hosted by volunteer fire companies may violate state gaming laws. Fire departments say these raffles provide critical revenue for equipment, fuel, and operations. Lawmakers in Harrisburg continue to debate a bill that would formally allow online fundraising by local fire companies. A notable neighbor from Mr. Rogers' neighborhood has just passed away. Here's Family Life's Brian Query.
Handyman Negri here. Would you like to talk with Mr. Rogers now?
Joe Negri, the legendary Pittsburgh jazz guitarist known to generations of children as Handyman Negri on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, has died at the age of 99, just days before his 100th birthday. Negri appeared on the beloved television program throughout its entire 30-year run, while also building a nationally respected career as a performer and educator. He taught jazz guitar for decades at the University of Pittsburgh and Duquesne University and received Pennsylvania's Lifetime Achievement in the Arts Award in 2019. Family members say he died of natural causes. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you very much, Brian. Let's switch gears, talk sports. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, there were some exciting finishes in Major League Baseball last night, although not so exciting for the New York Mets. Cole Young, in a game where only 5 runs were scored, of the Mariners, got an RBI single in the 10th inning, and they walked it off against the Amazons. What was amazing about the 5 total runs being scored was that there were 4 home runs in the game. Josh Naylor and Colt Emerson went deep for Seattle. Jared Young and Marcus Semien did it for the Mets. Some grannies also hit last night. Lane Thomas belted one in the first inning, and Kansas City never looked back, taking down the Reds 9-2. Tristan Gray blasted a 4-run dinger and drove in 5 for the game as Minnesota outslugged the White Sox 9-6. It was a fantastic finish by the Rockies, who scored 5 runs in the bottom of the 8th to give themselves a 2-run lead over the Angels. But LA scored 2 in the top of the 9th to tie it, only to have Colorado walk it off on a sac fly in the bottom of the frame. 9-8 the final. The Milwaukee Brewers had 6 players finish with at least 2 ribbies as they blew out the Giants 16-2. Elsewhere, Detroit's Dylan Dingler had 4 hits and 4 RBIs, 2 of the hits home runs. The Tigers outslugged Tampa Bay 10-9. The Marlins down the Nationals 7-3, Arizona 4, the Dodgers 1, and Texas edged St. Louis 2-1. And finally, this note from the NFL. The Philadelphia Eagles have traded star wideout A.J. Brown to the New England Patriots. Philly gets a 2028 first-round pick and a 2027 fifth-round selection. That is a look at sports.
Thank you, Randy Mann. And still to come on the Noon Report, primary day in California, church abuse seminar, and church matters to Gen Zers.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. Back in April, a reckless assisted suicide bill looked like it was going to pass and be made British law. But instead, it was shut down by the House of Lords. And then in May, the Irish Parliament rejected a law that would have expanded abortion there by a vote of 85 to 30. But on this side of the Atlantic, things are headed in the opposite direction. Like all such so-called mercy-killing laws, Canada's medical assistance in dying law was promised as an option only for those facing imminent death and who would consent. Things are long past that. Likely will go even further. In fact, recently, a Quebec physician suggested that Canada's already draconian-made program be expanded to include babies. In response, Brandon Tran of Canada's Campaign Life Coalition said this, quote, Canadian law currently permits the withdrawal of life-sustaining treatment for critically ill newborns, but this medical practitioner's proposal goes further. He calls for the calculated killing of an infant. These are patients, babies, who cannot speak, cannot consent, cannot ask for help. If we cannot draw the line here, I'm not sure where medical professionals imagine the line to be, end quote. Well, physician-assisted suicide is always sold to the public as a so-called compassionate measure necessary to spare those with no reasonable chance of recovery from unbearable pain and suffering during the last days of their lives. But in every context in which it's been made legal, assisted suicide has never remained limited to rare instances, certainly not just the rare instances for which it was sold. And there are reasons this particular slope has always proven so slippery. Anywhere and everywhere it's been made legal. Once it's decided that certain lives are not worth living, the list of people eligible for physician-assisted suicide inevitably grows. It becomes easier to reevaluate life based on some criteria other than intrinsic value, like convenience or financial cost. It's a small step indeed from being eligible to die to being expected to die. And that's why wherever doctor-assisted suicide is legalized, it happens due to a series of bait-and-switch claims to the public. For example, so-called terminal illness is quickly expanded to include chronic illnesses and permanent disability. In Belgium, the Netherlands, and Canada, even mental illness and depression can now be considered sufficient justification for suicide. Given that trajectory, it's only a matter of time before the requirement of an actual illness is dispensed with altogether. Suicidal ideation is rightly regarded as a symptom of an underlying mental disorder. People with untreated mental illness are not allowed to make life and death decisions, or at least they weren't. In Oregon, for example, since doctor-assisted suicide was made legal, over 96% of people given lethal drugs did not undergo a psychiatric evaluation at all. That's why, as one of our What Would You Say videos on the topic so clearly explains, there's nothing compassionate about physician-assisted suicide in the end. It is the exact opposite of compassion, the abdication of a civilized society's responsibility to care for those who need it most when they need it most. Some form of assisted suicide is now legal in 13 United States and the District of Columbia. And like abortion, the legal fight against assisted suicide is only part of the battle. It has to become unthinkable to strip away the intrinsic and indelible dignity that every single human person possesses, no matter the condition of their life. Otherwise, there's simply no way to stop from sliding down a slope that is so very slippery. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
Thank you, John. Outside we go next. It's weather where you live with meteorologist Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life forecast for this afternoon. It's a beauty, sunshine. There will be some wispy high clouds around for some. And it will be a bit warmer than yesterday with high temperatures into the 70s. Expect 50s and 60s close to Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Mainly clear tonight, low temps, mid-40s to the mid-50s. And for tomorrow and Thursday, considerable sunshine, turning a bit warmer. High temperatures tomorrow, mid-70s to around the low 80s. And probably in the upper 70s to the middle 80s for high temperatures on Thursday.
All right, Kevin, thank you kindly. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm your host, Bob Price. Here's what's happening Tuesday, the second day of June. 6 states are holding primary elections today, and some of the most watched are in California.
I think we know how reality stars make it when they are in government, and what's going on is not the best picture.
No matter how much I am attacked with these lies that have nothing to do with my heart and my spirit, I just want people to feel safe.
I'm used to being underestimated, But I know that the message that we're running on resonates with people.
In Los Angeles, former television reality star Spencer Pratt has made a splash in the mayor's race. Here's ABC's Tim Caputo.
Pratt, whose unconventional campaign has surged with support, went live on the Citizen app, asking the public to report issues like potholes through the app so everyone could see who's responding to community problems.
We need records of our city officials failing us.
We are done with the Democrats. We're going to wipe the floor with these people in November. In the equally close governor's race, Republican Steve Hilton has publicly asked fellow Republican Sheriff Chad Bianco to drop out in order to consolidate conservative support behind Hilton.
That's Tim Caputo with ABC. A surge in violence in the Middle East is casting doubt on truce talks with Iran. Nonetheless, President Trump insists peace negotiations are developing at a rapid pace. Israel's intensifying war with Hezbollah in Lebanon's become a main sticking point in the talks. President Trump had a rather heated phone call yesterday with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu on the matter. Here's NBC's Richard Engel.
Axios, citing two sources, reports President Trump exploded on the call with Netanyahu, cursing, calling him crazy, and accusing the prime minister of ingratitude.
President Trump said today he anticipates a deal with Iran will be worked out sometime over the next week. The 4-year-old war between Russia and Ukraine drags on. At least 18 are dead, over 100 more injured in Ukraine following a massive Russian drone and missile strike. Reporter Jonathan Savage.
Explosions boomed across Ukraine through the night and into the dawn. According to the Ukrainian Air Force, Russia unleashed 73 missiles and more than 650 drones. The main targets included Ukraine's capital Kyiv and cities including Dnipro, Kharkiv and Zaporizhia. Among the 63 people injured in Kyiv were 3 children with residential buildings hit. 140,000 people left without power.
A federal appeals court has ruled the Pentagon cannot block transgender troops from serving in the military.
A divided 3-judge panel on the D.C. appeals court upheld a lower judge's ruling that President Trump's executive order preventing transgender troops from serving in the military likely violates their constitutional rights. The appeals court did narrow the injunction to apply only to service members still in the military, but not new recruits seeking to join.
Fox's Jared Halpern. A year after going missing, a nuclear scientist has been found dead in New Mexico. The 53-year-old was discovered by a hiker in a forest 10 miles from her home. A handgun was found near the body. She worked at the Los Alamos nuclear facility. At least 10 others tied to that facility have disappeared or died under mysterious circumstances in recent years. Americans' view on religion is changing. A recent Pew Research poll finds 61% of U.S. adults say religion is losing its influence. But among younger Americans, there's been a resurgence of faith.
I think just church is such a good way to find community, and so since a lot of younger people are craving community, they're like looking for churches and stuff.
That's Andy Carlson, a recent graduate of the Rochester Institute of Technology in Western New York, and among the many from the Gen Z generation who are leaning into faith. Chaplain Sam Kisman hosts a weekly church service at RIT.
I would call this a spiritual awakening, both from a moral conscience and moral courage perspective, but also in the joy and the fun and the abundance and the teamwork that we're seeing in Gen Z.
Kinsman tells Spectrum News he's noticing an uptick in the number of students on campus who express an interest in the Bible. Students like Andy Carlson.
If you want to connect with God, do so by finding other people that will accept you and understand and have those conversations with you and answer your big questions, because questioning your faith doesn't mean that you don't have any.
A recent Barna poll finds younger adults are now the most regular church goers, outpacing older generations when it comes to weekly attendance. The Chicago Bears might be moving out of Chicago and into Indiana. Say what? Illinois lawmakers have been unable to pass a bill aimed at keeping the Bears in the state after months of stalled negotiations over tax credits for a new stadium. Stadium. The Bears are now considering a plan to move the franchise to Hammond, Indiana. You're listening to The Noon Report for a Tuesday on Family Life.
Helping church members who've been victims of sexual abuse or domestic violence. Welcome back to another edition of Hometown Heroes on Family Life. I'm Mark Webster, and this week's guest is pastor and author Dale Ingram of Speaking Truth in Love Ministries, hosting a conference in Woodhull, New York, June 15th to the 19th, to train church leaders to help abuse victims, a topic he and his wife Faith have been deeply involved with for decades. Speaking Truth in Love Ministries, this is tough stuff. It was a very challenging set of circumstances that led to its creation.
Yes. Faith and I met at Bible college, and shortly before we were engaged, she was able to tell me she had been sexually abused by her father. And we had no idea what to do. The initial response was, I don't want anything to do with him. And Faith's like, well, we have to love and forgive. So we really wrestled with that. Then in 2006, her dad molested one of his son's foster daughters. And that event is kind of what really woke us up to the issue. So I confronted him with what he had done. He's clearly unrepentant. Both Faith's parents have passed away now, but we started our ministry in 2007. We did our first conference in 2008, and the church I was pastoring at the time gave us a lot of freedom to travel and speak at conferences and in other churches.
Mm-hmm. We've heard a lot about this in the news lately with the Roman Catholic Church. This has been something that just continues to unfold here in our listening area too, in Buffalo and other parts of the region. But that dirty little secret in the closet, if you will, has been there all along, hasn't it?
It really has. It's a generational thing. It's been passed down. As a matter of fact, my mom, when she was 90 years old, she was born in 1923. When she was 90 years old, she read our book, Tear Down This Wall of Silence. And shortly after that, told me that she had been raped for the first time when she was 12, and then multiple times by men in the community as a teenager. And so this stuff's been going on. The whole thing with the Catholic Church and Spotlight, that kind of blew the doors open on abuse in the so-called Christian community. But everything that we see in the Catholic Church, it's in all these denominations. It's there. It's been silenced effectively for many generations.
You alluded to a book you wrote called Tear Down This Wall of Silence. And I noted that the subtitle of that book was dealing with that abuse in churches, an introduction for those who will hear. I think that's kind of key here, isn't it?
It really is. It's interesting, since we started our ministry, as we talk with pastors about the issue of abuse, you get a variety of responses. I'm seeing that improve, actually, but initially, many of the pastors, when you mention the term sexual abuse, they freeze. And many of them will either just abruptly change the subject or express no interest in pursuing that, which was a shock to me. For most of my ministry, which started in 83, I was 95% ignorant about sexual abuse and domestic violence. The 5% was, I knew what it was. I knew almost nothing about it. It wasn't until 2006 when we really started to wake up and educate ourselves about abuse. So I get it. We're not taught about this stuff in Bible college, and our churches, for the most part, don't preach and teach on it.
I wonder if part of the hesitation for those who don't want to discuss is just not wanting to admit the possibility that it's going on under their roof.
Yeah, I mean, statistically, somewhere between 1 in 3 and 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 boys will be raped or molested by the time they're 18 years old. And that's just sexual abuse. When you throw in exposure to domestic violence and kids going off to college, the statistics are similar. Rape, molestation, both boys and girls. So in most of our congregations, there's a large percentage of people that have gone through trauma, and for the most part, that type of trauma isn't even being addressed from the pulpit. So they're sitting there with those hurts and those wounds, and they're never really addressed or ministered to.
Now, that's the focus of this upcoming conference here you have in Woodhull in June. It's a train-to-trainer conference, so it's trying to instruct people within the church who are in charge of helping people deal with healing from complex trauma. Tell us a little bit what people can expect at this conference.
Paula Wallace and Mary Louise are the two that are going to be teaching this. Paula's from Nashville. She's had a couple of different ministries that she has going. One is Bloom Today, which is on cable networks. She also started Trauma-Informed Ministries to specifically help people who've gone through trauma. She has actually a really complex training material. This is going to be about helping people who want to help those who've gone through complex trauma. She uses the acronym HEAL for the training course. It'll be Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, which is obviously a big time commitment, but it's pretty incredible. It's free. If people want to give a donation, she puts the donations towards the next training that she's going to be doing, and she does these different trainings around the country. Paula herself actually has an amazing testimony. She's gone through sexual abuse, domestic violence, so she comes from drawing from her own personal experience as well as using God's word and helping people find healing that they need.
Just to sum this up, talk to a church leader or church member about this and the importance of addressing this challenging topic.
For myself, as a pastor, like I was just sharing, I knew very little about how to help people who've gone through abuse. The training is there, it's available, but most of us just have not had the exposure to it. And this would be a tremendous help. If a pastor is able to come and set aside that week, maybe the pastor's wife, maybe there's somebody in the congregation, maybe there's a counselor that attends the church, a group of counselors that would like to attend this, people that are already interested or maybe already involved in helping victims of abuse, victims of domestic violence. This would be an excellent training to help prepare them, enable them to further help people who've gone through trauma.
That's pastor and author Dale Ingram of Speaking Truth in Love Ministries, hosting a conference in Woodhull, New York, June 15th to the 19th to train church leaders to help abuse victims. Learn more at speakingtruthinlove.org. Please join us again next time as we search for your home, your town, your hero. It's Hometown Heroes on Family Life.
Excellent work. Thank you, Mark. Hometown Heroes comes your way Tuesdays during the Noon Report or online anytime at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and FamilyLife.org. And finally at noon, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani has just repealed bedtime for public school students while the New York Knicks compete in the NBA Finals. The action gets underway tomorrow. Here's reporter Sarah Lee Kessler.
In what could be an unprecedented move, a New York City mayor is telling parents it's okay to let the kids stay up late on a school night to watch the Knicks battle the Spurs. Game 1 of the NBA Final is Wednesday night. To punctuate his gesture, Mamdani had children at City Hall signing his executive order with their handprints. I'm Sarah Lee Kessler.
I guess that makes it official. Thank you, Sarah. The Knickerbockers playing in the NBA Finals for the first time since 1999. And that's our world, the world we live in. Tuesday, the 2nd of June. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.